Good morning, everyone. So, I thought we could do something a little bit fun today. I have been reading, just in my personal time, the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ. Now, this one of the bookmarks in here is something I thought we could read together today, but this first one here, if you can see this little bit here, let me try to demonstrate this a smidge better. Let me go live on Instagram here. This little bit here is all I've been able to do. This what you see here. So I have quite a bit. I am dying in Second Nephi, to be honest with you. It's just very, I guess, impressions so far. I've read all of First Nephi. I'm in Second Nephi. It's tough. It's a very, very tough read. So I'm forcing myself through it. I want to read it. It's not holding my attention, but I understand kind of the historical significance of this book and the religious significance of it. So I'm going to finish it. I get a couple chapters in a night, and then I just I'm like, I can't read anymore. So, but I thought, maybe you and I could read some together. Maybe if we use our imaginations here, we can make this a little bit more interesting this morning. So starting off in the Book of Mormon, kind of interesting. I'll show you this if I can. Let's see. So Joseph Smith. So the first thing you have when you open up the Book of Mormon is you have an introduction, which kind of is going to explain the Book of Mormon a little bit and its purpose. So let's read a little bit of this, and then we'll get into the testimonies that are in here too. So there's testimonies in the Book of Mormon. How interesting. So the introduction, this is the first page of the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon is a volume of Holy Scripture comparable to the Bible. It is a record of God's dealings with the ancient inhabitants of the Americas. Okay, how interesting. And contains the fullness of the everlasting gospel. This book was written by many ancient prophets by the spirit of prophecy and revelation. Their words written on gold plates were quoted and abridged by a prophet historian named Mormon, a prophet/historian named Mormon. Okay, so hence the name, the Book of Mormon. The record gives us an account of two great civilizations. One came from Jerusalem in 600 BC, and afterwards separated into two nations known as the Nephites and the Lamanites. The other came much earlier when the Lord confounded the tongues at the Tower of Babel, whichever. This group is known as the Jaredites. After thousands of years, all were destroyed except the Lamanites, and they are among the ancestors of the American Indians. Okay, so in case that's really bizarre to hear, let me explain a little bit of what he is saying there. The Book of Mormon is about, essentially, it's almost like Bible stories is how it's written. It's supposed to sound very similar to the Old Testament, especially the Nephi books, which is where I'm at right now. But it's set in the United States, okay? So what happens is in 600 BC, you have these seafaring Jews, and I forget the father's name. It's a father and a couple of brothers. Nephi is one of the brothers. Lehi, I think, is the father. I think I want to say Lehi. They all have really strange names. So let's just say that I'm correct with that. Lehi or whatever is the father. They basically, he has a vision that Jerusalem is going to be invaded by the Babylonians, and he loads his sons up on a boat. They travel across the ocean and they land in the United States. Okay. So all the stories of the Nephites, the Jaredites, and the Lamanites, I think, was that one of them? Lamanites? Yeah, Lamanites. This all actually takes place in the United States. And this is why Joseph Smith in the 1800s allegedly finds these golden plates buried in New York, because this is where all these events occurred. Okay? So that's what he's talking about there. Now, here's where we're going to get a little bit of kind of like the history of how this happened. So he says, the crowning event recorded in the Book of Mormon is the personal ministry of the Lord Jesus Christ among the Nephites soon after his resurrection. He headed to America after his resurrection, according to the Book of Mormon, okay? It puts forth the doctrines of the gospel, outlines the plan of salvation, and tells men what they must do to gain peace in this life and eternal salvation in the life to come. Okay. In due course, the plates were delivered to Joseph Smith, who translated them by the gift and power of God. The record is now published in many languages as a new and additional witness that Jesus Christ is the Son of the living God, and that all who will come to him and obey the laws and ordinances of his gospel may be saved. What do you think about that line right there? Okay. So, I think that we've talked about this a lot in this channel. I think that a false teaching is anything that says that Jesus is not the Son of God, right? And that's what First John says. And that's it. I mean, a false teaching is not something that we disagree with doctrinally, or we disagree with theologically, or we just disagree with because we disagree with it. A false teaching is anything that denies that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. That's a false teaching. So you could look at Mormonism and you could say, well, didn't he just say that? I mean, he says right here, oh, that's actually pretty good. I got to read it. It says right here that Jesus Christ is the Son of the living God, and that all who come to him. But so I guess the first part would be correct. He says that Jesus Christ is the Son of the living God, but then there's an addition here. And I don't know. I mean, what do you think about this? Because it says that all who will come unto him and obey the laws and ordinances of his gospel will be saved. So it's not really believing in him. Jesus says that anyone who looks to the Son and believes in him will be saved. Will have eternal life, and I myself will raise them up on the last day. That's what Jesus says. What the Book of Mormon is saying here is all who come to him and obey the laws and ordinances of his gospel will be saved. So I think that's different, isn't that? That's a different message. So, okay. So anyway, we kind of got an overview there. So now we move on to the next page here, and we have testimonies of witnesses. So I don't know if the camera will zoom. It's going to be backwards, but perhaps you can kind of see. So you see how there's the testimony of the 3 witnesses, and then there's the testimony of the 8 witnesses. So it just focused. Okay. And then we have the testimony of the prophet Joseph Smith. So we're going to have a threefold testimony here on the next page of the Book of Mormon. So you have 3 men here that are going to say that they have seen these golden plates. You have 8 more men that said they have seen these golden plates. These are the golden plates that Joseph found on the hill of Cumorah in New York. They're the record of these Nephites, these Jaredites, these Lamanites. They're those records. And essentially these men are saying, hey, we've seen these golden plates, so this is legitimate. And we're putting our names on this, and we're saying that we've seen them. So, okay. Let's read just a little bit out of the testimony of the 3 witnesses here. So we just get a kind of an idea of what. Basically, Joseph Smith is adding other people's names to this because he wants to legitimatize his claim here. He's saying, I found golden plates in New York on a hill that had records of ancient civilizations that came from Jerusalem. Jesus was here. He ministered to these. I, Joseph Smith, found these. Also, here are 11 other men who have seen these golden plates. Okay? So let's start with the testimony of the 3 witnesses. Good morning, Manuel. Let's start with the testimony of the 3 witnesses. Be it known to all nations, kindreds, tongues, and people unto whom this work shall come, that we through the grace of God the Father and our Lord Jesus Christ have seen the plates, which contain this record, which is a record of the people of Nephi and also of the Lamanites, their brethren, and also of the people of Jared, who come from the tower of which hath been spoken. Now remember, the Jaredites came from the Tower of Babel. The Nephites and the Lamanites came from Jerusalem. They went across the sea with their father, Nephi. I'm going to get that wrong. With their father. They're seafaring Jews. Okay? And this happened in 600 BC, according to the Book of Mormon. So he says, and we also testify to have seen the engravings which are upon the plates. They have been shown to us by the power of God and not of a man. We declare with words of soberness that an angel of God came down from heaven, and he brought and laid before our eyes, and that we beheld and saw the plates and the engravings thereon. Okay. And it's marvelous in our eyes. So then now we got to kind of get their version of the gospel here, which is really interesting. He says, nevertheless, the voice of the Lord commanded us that we should bear record of it. Wherefore, to be obedient to the commandments of God, we bear testimony to these things. And we know that if we are faithful in Christ, we shall rid our garments of the blood of all men and be found spotless before the judgment seat of Christ, and shall dwell with him eternally in the heavens. So again, you have a condition to salvation. This is very similar to what the opening said, where it was like, well, you have to keep the commandments and the ordinances of the gospel, and then you can be saved. They're kind of saying something like, we did this thing, we witnessed to these golden plates, and that's how we know we're saved. Do you see that? So that's strange. I mean, again, we have a kind of a strange twist on the gospel. So the testimony of the 8 witnesses is much, much shorter. All it says here is, be it known to all nations, kindreds, tongues, and people unto whom this work shall come, that Joseph Smith Jr., the translator of this work, has shown to us the plates of which these have been spoken, which have the appearance of gold and is of many leaves, as the said Smith has translated. We did handle these with our hands. We saw the engravings, of which have all the appearance of ancient work and curious workmanship. Smith said the plates were written in a language called Reformed Egyptian. No such language exists. There's not a single linguistics person, I don't know what you would call them, that would ever testify to the existence of Reformed Egyptian. It's not a real language. But Smith said it is a real language, and it was on these plates. And he's going to actually explain to us how he was able to translate Reformed Egyptian, which he does not speak. Okay, so we have the testimony of 3 witnesses. So we got 3 men here that say, okay, we saw the plates. Smith is real. He's telling you the truth here. Then you have an additional 8 men here that have said, we have also seen these plates. We've handled these plates. They're real. Smith dug them up on the hill Cumorah in New York. They were buried there by Moroni in, I think it's like 600 AD, when the Battle of the hill Cumorah, and we're going to talk about this big battle here in a little bit. But the battle on Cumorah happened. He buried those things there, and look, it's all real. So we have 11 witnesses total that have all said they've seen and they've handled these plates. They've handled these plates. They're real. So, okay. So now we're going to hear from the prophet Joseph Smith himself. Okay. The prophet Joseph Smith's own words about the coming forth of the Book of Mormon are as follows. On the evening, oh, you know what? I actually have illustrations for this. Okay. Let me, I'm going to show some pictures as we talk about this story, okay? Let's illustrate it. Let's use the mind's eye here and try to make this a little bit less boring than the Book of Mormon is on its own, okay? Let me jump over to this. Okay, so my first picture here is Jesus Christ appearing in the Americas. Now remember that that's kind of the linchpin of this whole story, is that this other testament of Jesus Christ takes place in the United States, okay? And that right after he was crucified and rose from the dead, he appeared in North America, and he witnessed to these ancient peoples who then became the Native Americans. That's what Joseph Smith is claiming here. They came originally. Which ones were these? Because we have 3 people groups. We have the Nephites who were wiped out, I believe. We have the Lamanites, and we have the Jaredites. Is it the Jaredites that became the Lamanites? Okay, so these would be the Lamanites that Jesus is talking to right here. These are the Lamanites. And the Lamanites come from Jerusalem, so they're like Jewish descent. So they're Jewish descent. They're in North America. That's why Jesus comes there and he witnesses to them. And we have all those stories here in the Book of Mormon. So that's kind of our first picture. We have a picture of Jesus Christ appearing in the United States. Well, what will become the United States, North America. Okay. So anyway, to begin Joseph's tale here, he says, on the evening of the 21st of September, 1823, I betook myself to prayer and supplication to the Almighty God. While I was in the act of calling upon God, I discovered a light appearing in my room, which continued to increase until the room was lighter than at noonday, when immediately a personage appeared at my bedside, standing in the air, for his feet did not touch the floor. Now let's show a picture of what that might look like. I think that's our next slide. Okay, so now here we have a picture of the prophet Joseph Smith, who was just, having a nice prayer here, and all of a sudden, you have this spiritual being just manifest, and here we have it. So that's kind of my take on what it might look like. I didn't get this 100% right. Is the prophet Joseph Smith has an electric light on his nightstand, and I don't think he would have had that in 1823. But hey, I mean, mind's eye, right? Mind's eye. So anyway, he says, he had a loose robe of most exquisite whiteness. It was whiteness beyond anything earthly I had ever seen, nor do I believe that any earthly thing could be made to appear so exceedingly white and brilliant. His hands were naked, and his arms also a little above the wrists, so also were his feet naked. He's barefoot. That's a weird way to say it. As were his legs, a little above the ankles. His head and neck were also bare. I could discover that he had no other clothing on, but that this robe, as it was open, so I could see into his bosom. okay, Joseph, I don't know why you're just okay. Anyway, I think I have another picture of another imagination of what this angel might have looked like. So when Joseph started saying, okay, well, he's dressed in white, you can apparently Joseph's looking down his shirt. I have no idea why, but I was like, well, maybe we can make him a little bit more, a little bit more angelic looking in kind of the classical Renaissance sense. Okay. He called me by name and said that unto me that he was a messenger sent from the presence of God to me, and that his name was Moroni, and that God had work for me to do, and that my name should be had for good and evil among all nations, kindreds, and tongues, or that it should be both good and evil spoken of among all people. It's kind of confusing language there, isn't it? He's essentially what he's saying is he's saying that this messenger is telling me that my name will be both spoken of well and not well. That's really what he means. He's wording it very poorly, but that's the heart behind this. Okay. So he says, he said there was a book deposited, written upon gold plates, giving an account of the former inhabitants of this continent. Now remember, this is in America in 1823, and he's saying that this weirdo messenger is telling me that on this continent there is gold plates that were deposited in ancient times. Okay, so he's speaking about the United States here. Okay, I lost my spot here. Okay, and the source from whence they sprang. He also said that the fullness of the everlasting gospel was contained in it, as delivered by the Savior to the ancient inhabitants. That's the ancient inhabitants of North America, the Lamanites. Okay. Also, that there were 2 stones in silver bows, and these stones fastened to a breastplate constituted what is called the Urim and Thummim. That's actually from the Levitical law. That was a way of deciphering like prophecy and like the will of God and stuff. They had these devices called the Urim and the Thummim. I don't know, but Joseph is essentially taking that from the Old Testament and he's transplanting that into his book to try to add legitimacy to this and say that, oh, no, it really is. It's just an old Hebrew thing because, like, look, I mean, the same devices that Moses would have used under the law, this is what Moroni is telling me that I need to find to translate these golden plates. So he's doing that to add legitimacy. I think that also is going to play on ignorance a little bit, and he's hoping to do that with his audience because whenever you reference not well-known things or you use big words or terminology that's not really used a lot, it kind of makes you seem like you're intelligent, especially if somebody isn't super learned on, say, like the Old Testament law or something like that. So they might just believe you and not really. And I don't know. I guess that's my thoughts on it. I think that he's doing that to add legitimacy, but that's I guess that's just my opinion on it. But let's go on here. So he says that. So where are the okay? So. And he told me that when I got those plates of which he had spoken for the time that they should be obtained was yet not fulfilled, I should not show them to any person, neither the breastplate with the Urim and Thummim. I'm sorry, I'm slaughtering that. Only to those whom I should be commanded to show them. And if I did show them, I should be destroyed. While he was conversing with me about the plates, the vision was open to my mind that I could see the place where the plates were deposited, and that so clearly and distinctly I knew the place again when I visited it. I think I have a picture of that. Let's go on one. Oh, this is a fun image here. This is my imagination of as if the Book of Mormon was good. So remember when, so this is what Joseph Smith kind of describes Moroni to look like, although Moroni is like what, 80% naked when Joseph Smith sees him. So our image is a little bit more appropriate. My imagination of it is this. I'm like, let's make it fun. Like Moroni is some like dark, horrible thing that like slipped in from the in-between spaces, and that's how I would imagine it. So I threw that picture in there. When I was creating this artwork, I was trying to like jazz it up a little bit. I was like, this is so boring. Like, let's make it fun. So that's my version of Moroni. I like that one a lot better. And Joseph probably does too, because he's totally naked in this one. So Joseph probably enjoys that. So let's move on to, shoot. So see, I have no preview of this. Let me see if I can find this slide. We'll go back to these ones. Okay, this is the one I'm looking for. So Joseph, now remember he says Moroni gave him a vision of where these plates are located. So what I created here is Joseph kind of looking in the distance to where the hill Cumorah is at, because Moroni is showing him, hey, there's this hill. It's not even far from where you live, conveniently, Joseph. And on this hill in ancient times, there was this huge battle, which I have some images of here. There was this huge battle on this hill in ancient times. And during this battle, I hid these golden plates up there. And now I'm coming back as an angel because Moroni was a physical person, but he's long dead. He's saying, I'm coming back now as an angelic being, and I'm telling you where to find these plates. Okay. So anyway, so that's where we're at with this. So Joseph sees a vision of Cumorah. So that's where Joseph is at. He's seeing this vision of Cumorah. And now, this is still in his bedroom now, though. So this is like kind of in Joseph's mind. He's seeing Cumorah. But now in his bedroom, he says, after this communication, I saw the light in the room began to gather immediately around the person of him who had been speaking to me. And it continued to do so until the room was again left dark, except just around him. And where I instantly saw it as if a conduit opened right into heaven, and he ascended till he entirely disappeared, and the room was left as it had been before. This heavenly light had made its appearance. So a portal opens in the ceiling, Moroni goes up, it closes, and that's it. Okay, now Moroni's gone. Now, so Joseph, to recap, Moroni, a portal opened, Moroni dropped into Joseph's bedroom. He said, hey, Joseph, there's a hill here in New York. It's called Cumorah. And on this hill, there was this horrifying battle. All these people were killed. I buried these gold plates up there about, well, what is this, 1,400 years ago? I buried these golden plates up there. You need to go find them. This is the commandment of God. And then the portal opens and Moroni goes back up. Okay? So that's what happened there. Okay? I don't know, Manuel, maybe. I see your comment. You said, well, basically Joseph was visited by a demon. That's where I'm at with it. That's why I had that picture. I was like, maybe Joseph saw something, but I'm not sure it was Moroni. Might have been that. So, okay. But Joseph doesn't think so. He thinks it was this. Okay. So anyway, so Moroni leaves. Okay. So now Joseph's by himself in his bedroom, and now he's just had this weirdo experience with this weirdo angel, and he's just kind of laying there thinking about it. And that's where we join him in this next passage. After this communication, I lay musing on the singularity of the scene and marveling greatly at what had been told to me by this extraordinary messenger, when in the, please hold, midst of my meditation, I suddenly discovered that my room was again beginning to get lighted, and in an instant, as it were, the same heavenly messenger was once again by my bedside. This is 5 minutes later. Moroni just dropped through a portal. He said this thing. He went back through the portal. Now he's come back. All right. He commenced and again related the very same things which he had done at his first visit without the least variation, which having done, he informed me of great judgments which were coming upon the earth with great desolations by famine, sword, and pestilence, and that these grievous judgments would come upon the earth in this generation. Now, keep in mind, this is 1823, okay? So in that generation, this is going to happen according to Moroni. Having related these things, he again ascended as he had done before. Okay, that's strange. So Moroni forgot something. He came back down from heaven and he went back up. Okay, so he forgot to give the doom and gloom warning. He probably was halfway back to heaven and he was like, oh, he's looking through his like note cards and he's like, I forgot the entire part about the wrath coming. Hang on. And he goes back down. Joseph, I'm sorry. There was a whole other part to this. I'm sorry. Can I just get through this real quick? So that's what happens. Then Moroni goes back up. Okay. So then after that, this is Joseph again. Now he's left alone in his bedroom and he says, by this time, so deep were the impressions made on my mind that sleep had fled from my eyes. I lay overwhelmed in astonishment at what I had seen and heard. But what was my surprise when again I beheld the same messenger at my bedside and heard him rehearse or repeat over to me the same words as before, with an added caution, telling me that Satan would try to tempt me in consequence of the indigent circumstances of my father's family to get the plates for the purpose of getting rich. This he forbade me, saying that I must have no other object in view of getting the plates but to glorify God, and must not be influenced by any other motive than that of building his kingdom. Otherwise, I could not get them. Okay? After this third visit, he again ascended into heaven, just as before, and I was left to ponder on the strangeness of what I had just experienced. When almost immediately, don't tell me he's coming back a fourth time. After the heavenly messenger had ascended from me from the third time, the clock, the I'm not going to say the rooster. We'll change the word he was about to use there. The rooster crowed, and I found that daylight was approaching, so that our interviews must have occupied the whole of that night. Okay, so Moroni visited 3 times, gave the same message, but each mess, like the second 2 messages, had a little bit of a variation on the end. Okay, so the first message was just, hey, there's golden plates hidden at Cumorah, you should go find them. The second message was, hey, there's golden plates hidden at Cumorah, you should go find them. Also, there's the wrath of God is going to come in this generation. And the third message was, hey, the golden plates are hidden at Cumorah, you should go find them. Also, watch out for Satan. So that's the wholeness of this interaction that Smith has in his bedroom with Moroni, okay? So now it's the next day. I shortly arose from my bed as usual and went to the necessary labors of the day. But in attempting work, as at other times, I found my strength so exhausted as to render me entirely unable. My father, who was laboring along with me, discovered something to be wrong with me and told me to go home. I started with the intention of going into the house, but in attempting to cross the fence out of the field where we were, my strength entirely failed me, and I felt helpless on the ground, and for a time was quiet and unconscious of anything. The first thing that I can recollect was a voice speaking to me, calling my name. I looked up, you'll never guess, I looked up and beheld the same messenger standing over my head, surrounded by light as before. He then related unto me all that he had related to me in the previous night, oh my goodness, Moroni, and then commanded me to go to my father and tell him of the vision and commandments which I had received. Moroni is really a chatterbox, isn't he? He's going on and on with this same thing. This is the 4th time now, okay? This is where this story is going to get really good, by the way. I obeyed. I returned to my father in the field and rehearsed the whole matter to him. Now, this is Joseph's father, Joseph Smith Sr. He replied to me that it was God and told me to go and do as commanded by the messenger. I left the field and I went to the place where the messenger had told me the plates were deposited. Now, this is the Hill Cumorah. This is in New York. This is a real place. We're gonna look at Google. Well, we're gonna look at some pictures from Google of the Hill Cumorah. Smith is heading there now. Okay. And owing the distances of the vision which I had seen concerning it, I knew the place the instant I arrived there. Okay, so let's jump forward in our pictures here a little bit. So remember, there's the demon Moroni. This is the battle on Cumorah, which I guess I probably have these slides a little bit out of order, but this is the ancient battle on the Hill Cumorah. There it is again. I added in some lightning for, like, I don't know, this making this kind of like a supernatural thing. There's Joseph looking at Cumorah. And there's the golden plates. Okay, so anyway, we'll stop at this one. So Joseph is kind of he knows this place, and now he's gotten the 4th message from Moroni, just so we can kind of keep up with this confusion. And now he's actually gone to Cumorah. Now he's actually gone there to see if he can find these plates, and he did find the spot. So he's gone there and he's found the spot where the plates are buried. Now he's going to give us a location, okay? And this is how we know where Cumorah is today, because Joseph tells us, all right? Not to mention that the Church of the Latter-day Saints have a temple there, and they have pageants on the Hill Cumorah. There's a Hill Cumorah Visitor Center. You can climb the Hill Cumorah. They have shrines on the Hill Cumorah. So we know where this is at. This is a very well-documented place, okay? So anyway, here's the location. Convenient to the village of Manchester, Ontario County, New York, stands a hill of considerable size, and the most elevated of any in the neighborhood. On the west side of this hill, not far from the top, under a stone of considerable size, lay the plates deposited in a stone box. The stone was thick and rounding in the middle on the upper side and thinner towards the edges, so the middle part of it was visible above the ground, but the edges around were all covered in earth. Having removed the earth, I obtained a lever, which I got fixed under the edge of the stone, and with a little exertion raised it up. I looked in there, and indeed I did behold the plates, the ermine and the thummim, and the breastplate, all as stated by the messenger. The box in which they lay was formed by laying stones together in some kind of cement. In the bottom of the box were laid stones crossways of the box, and on these stones lay the plates and the other things with them. I do want to pause here quickly and just say that this is supposed to have been buried. I want to say it's like 400 or 600 AD, and Joseph is digging these up in the 1820s. With let's say it's 1400 years, or let's say it's 1200 years of weather erosion. These would not be at the surface. I'm just saying that because I watch a lot of archaeology stuff, mainly biblical archaeology. It does not take long at all for something to sink way into the earth. And if we're saying there's been at least 1,000 years between the times that this was buried and the time that Smith is finding them, they would not be at the surface. I could almost guarantee. I don't have to know a lot about archaeology to know that they would not be just sitting at the surface where Moroni buried them. They would be way, 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 way down in the earth, especially if they're in stone. They're made of gold, and they're in a stone box. I mean, that is going to sink into the earth. That's not going to just be surface level. There'd have to be something anchoring it to keep it up there. I mean, there'd have to be more to this. It's not just going to be a box. There'd have to be a lot more to this. If we think about any ancient archaeological sites, just something that's lightweight, so something like a coin or whatever, would really be far down in the earth. Depending on the years and things, like weather erosion is going to push that further and further into the earth. You don't just find them on the surface where they were dropped 1,000 years ago. So that's pretty strange to me. And right there, I would raise eyebrows at that. I would say you got to do better. It's got to be a cave or something that the box was in. There has to be something a little bit more logical than to this box is just buried like a foot beneath the ground, or, well, not even. He said it wasn't even all the way covered. It was partially covered. So I don't know. I don't like that. I think that he should have done better with that, because I would challenge that from just a logical standpoint. So anyway, so now Smith has found the box. He's on the hill Cumorah. He's found the box, and he says, I made an attempt to take them out, but was forbidden by the messenger. Apparently Moroni's here. I didn't know Moroni went with him, but apparently Moroni's here. And was again informed that the time for bringing them forth had not yet arrived, neither would it until 4 years from that time. But he told me that I should come to that place precisely in 1 year from that time, and that he would meet there with me, and that I should continue to do so until the time had come for obtaining the plates. So Moroni is saying, look, Joseph, congratulations, you found the treasure, but hey, not until 4 years do you get to dig this thing up. Now, Joseph did open the box and look in, but he's saying, look, you can't take them. You saw them, but you can't take them. But instead, I got a better plan. Meet me here once a year for the next 4 years, and on the 4th year, you can have the plates. Okay, that's Moroni's decree. So Smith is now going to follow this. Accordingly, as I had been commanded, I went at the end of each year, and in each time I found the same messenger there and received instructions and intelligence from him at each of our interviews, respecting what the Lord was going to do and in what manner his kingdom was to be conducted in the latter days, the last days. At this time, at this length of time at length, the time arrived for obtaining the plates, the ermine and the thummim, and the breastplate. On the 22nd day of September, 1827, having gone as usual at the end of another year to the place where they were deposited, the same heavenly messenger delivered them up to me with this charge, that I should be responsible for them, and if that I should let them go carelessly through any neglect of mine, I should be cut off. But that if I would use all of my endeavors to preserve them, then he, the messenger, should call for them, and that until he, the messenger, should call for them, they should be protected. Okay. So finally, after all this time, he's going to let Joseph Smith take the plates. But now he kind of threatens them there a little bit. And he says, you can take the plates, Smith, but if you let anybody see these, or if these fall out of your hands, you better watch out, essentially. So there's a little bit of a threat there going on. 1 second, please. But regardless, Smith finally has the plates, okay? So anyway, he says, now Smith is going to talk a little bit more here. He says, I soon found out the reason why I had received such strict charges to keep them safe, and why it was that the messenger had said, when I had done what I had done was required at my hand, he would call for them. For no sooner was it known that I had them, that the most strenuous exertions were used to get them from me. Every strategy that could be invented was resorted to for that purpose. The persecution became more bitter and severe than before, and the multitudes were on alert continually to get them from me if possible. But by the wisdom of God, they remained safe in my hands until I had accomplished by them what was required at my hands. When, according to the arrangements, the messenger called for them, and I delivered them to them, and he has them in his charge until this day, being the 2nd day of May, 1838. So Joseph Smith had the golden plates in his possession from 1827 to 1838. Okay, that's 11 years Smith had the golden plates in his possession. All right. Now, when the time was done and he's done translating the Book of Mormon, he gives the golden plates to Moroni, who takes them away, never to be seen again. How convenient that these cannot be. These aren't, these can't be. It's not like the manuscripts of the Bible that we have. We have tons and tons of, I think, what is it, 5,500 ancient manuscripts of the Bible. It's quite a few that can be examined and that can be carbon dated and that can be looked at, and everyone can see them. But we don't have anything for these golden plates. Moroni took them, so we can't see the golden plates. Nobody can see them, except we have to take the word of these ancient witnesses that we have at the beginning of the book, the 3 witnesses and the 8 witnesses, and Joseph Smith. We have to take him at his word because he can't prove any of this. He's telling us that he saw him. Okay, here's the fantastic story about Moroni. But, conveniently, Moroni took the plates into heaven. And what I have left is the Book of Mormon, my translation of the plates. But I don't have the plates or any kind of proof that any of this happened. Okay, so that's the end of that. That's the end of Joseph Smith's intro, and that you can read a little bit more of that story in Pearl of a Great Price. So then we have a little bit of artwork. There is Jesus, as shown in the opening of the Book of Mormon. There is the prophet Joseph Smith. There he is. He kind of looks like my rendering of him, doesn't he? Like if you compare him, like I think I got him pretty well. There's something. What is this? Lehi discovers Ladona. I don't know what that is. I haven't got that far in the book yet. This is the seafaring Jews who arrive in the Promised Land. The Promised Land is the United States of America. So they take this boat across the ocean. What else? There's Alma's baptizing in the waters of Moroni. I haven't got to that yet. Here's a picture of Jesus Christ visiting the Americas. Hey, let's compare that actually, because I have one of those. Let me pull up my slide, okay? That's my version of it. Honestly, I didn't do too bad with that. Theirs is better, but mine isn't too bad, okay? So there's Jesus Christ visiting the Americas. And here's one I don't have my own version of this. This is Moroni burying the plates on the hill Cumorah, okay? So I don't know how well you can see that, but that's what that is. That's Moroni burying the golden plates up on the hill where Smith will eventually find them, okay? All right. No map with an X on it. That's funny, Manuel. No, they're essentially there was a version of that at least. So okay, let us go to. Hopefully, my camera refocuses soon here. It didn't like me holding up all those pictures there. So let me go to some other things in here I want to show you in our slides. Okay, so we got the battle on Cumorah. We got all that. There's the golden plates. There's another version of like the Moroni if he was a horror. Okay, so this is what when I read this, let me blow this picture up for you, okay? Because I want to show you these really well. This is kind of the mind's eye of what Cumorah might look like to me. When I'm reading about this in the Book of Mormon, I'm picturing like this really big, like almost like Mount Olympus, like this mountain that's in this world, but it doesn't really belong to this world. It's like this place where the gods tread, just something kind of really, really supernatural. So this is what I'm picturing. Okay, let's look at the actual hill Cumorah, which is that's the devil. Because remember, he was being warned about the devil, so I had some slides for that. Apparently, there's Joseph Smith being warned about the devil right there. Okay, so anyway. Here we go to what the actual hill Cumorah is. This is actually it. So this is the hill where Joseph Smith found the golden plates, okay? This is what it looks like. So you can kind of see that there's a Latter-day Saints temple there. That's the white building. And then you can see that rise in the ground there. That's the hill Cumorah, okay? So our version was a lot more engaging, I think, than the actual thing. This is very underwhelming. It looks like a landfill, honestly. But up here at the top, if you look carefully, I'm going to zoom in on this in a second, but if you look carefully, kind of the right-hand side here, you can see a white, well, I don't know what you want to call it, like spire kind of coming out of the hilltop. That's this. Let's get closer to it. That's Moroni. So there's actually a shrine up there for Moroni. I don't know if this is supposed to mark the exact spot where Smith found the tablets, but you can kind of see actually On the base of this, there's artwork depicting Smith receiving the tablets and everything on this shrine of Moroni. So you got Moroni up here. This maybe is supposed to be the spot. I kind of feel like it is. It's marking the spot where the plates were buried. I feel like that's the story here, and then that's what's being shown to us here on the bottom. So just interesting stuff. So now let's go back to, again, that's our version of it, okay? That's our version of it. Our version of it, I think, is a lot more engaging. You have Smith making this treacherous climb up to Cumorah to get these plates. That's Cumorah, okay? You could jog up Cumorah in 5 seconds. So there's really just, I don't know. I don't find it too impressive, okay? So let's go to, where are we at now? That's something different. Let's go back to number 1. We're going to get to that slide there in a second, okay? So what is minimize? There we go. All right. I'm kind of like refreshing on Restream. I haven't used this in a while, so I'm kind of realigning myself a little bit with the controls. Okay. So what do you guys think so far about the Book of Mormon? I mean, does this sound like something that's feasible, or is this? I mean, that's how it opens. Okay, that's the opening, and it gets wilder from there. So essentially, what you have after that is you have the first 2 books of Nephi, which is where I'm at, and I'll update you after I get through 2nd Nephi and tell you kind of what I think of the books of Nephi. But Manuel says it looks like Little House on the Prairie. It is a very underwhelming. A landfill, Little House on the Prairie. That's what it's something like that. But it's not the mountain that you kind of get the idea of in the Book of Mormon. You kind of get the idea of this. It's just a little sledding hill. Is all Cumorah is. It's a little sledding hill. It looks like something you'd see like behind a Walmart, like where they moved the earth to like build the store. That's what Cumorah looks like. I mean, it's very, very small. It's a little mound. Is it even a hill? Like it's a little mound. It's just it's really, really small. So really, really disappointing when you actually see Cumorah. They have pageants there and stuff where they they reenact the story of the Battle of the Hill Cumorah and all this type of stuff. They tell the whole story of Joseph Smith on Cumorah. They actually have a stage on this side. The Latter-day Saints actually have a big stage on Cumorah where there's like this big lawn out there. There's all these chairs, and then you can go there and you can. It's kind of like when some box churches will have like a nativity pageant. That's what they do on Cumorah, only it's a Mormon pageant, and it's reenacting the story that we read here, and then all the other stories that are in the Book of Mormon. So you can watch it on YouTube if you want. They have the whole thing on there. It's interesting. I don't want to make fun of them or anything. It looks just like any production you'd see in a box church. It's not like it's different. I mean, it's exactly what you would expect. It's people in costumes, reenacting stuff. So it's not like it's embarrassing or anything. The only difference is that it's the Book of Mormon versus the Bible. That's the giant difference. Other than that, it's exactly the same. So Kingpin says Mormon was a chatty Cathy. Yeah, Mormon was really he's really a talker when Joseph Smith meets him. So the next thing I wanted to show you guys here, and I know we're getting low on time. This is Joseph Smith. So he created two primary, well, 3, I guess, because he created Pearl of a Great Price, which I have on the shelf there behind me. But so we have the Book of Mormon, okay, and that's what we were just talking about here. We were reading from the Book of Mormon. This is Joseph Smith's translation of the Bible. So what Smith did is he actually retranslated the entire Bible, and he added quite a bit to it. And what he says in the Book of Mormon, he explains why he did this. And it's actually in 1 Nephi, so it's right in the beginning of the Book of Mormon. He says that the Bible, there was only ever one copy of it, and that as it was copied from scribe to scribe, from generation to generation, it was altered. And he said that the demonic church, which is any church that isn't the Latter-day Saints, they actually removed what he called plain and precious portions out of the Bible. They took away these plain and precious portions. So this was given to him through divine inspiration to restore the Bible to its original form. So this, according to have you ever heard Joseph Smith referred to as the prophet of the restoration? Because that's his official name. He's Joseph Smith, the prophet of the restoration. This is part of the restoration right here, as he restored the entire Bible for us. So this is really cool. You can pick this up on Amazon for like $30. And what's so cool about this version of the Joseph Smith Bible is it's a parallel Bible. So with risk of giving the camera another heart attack, I won't hold it too close to it. But right here, you see, if you probably can't see it super well, but it says Joseph Smith's translation. And this is Genesis right here. And then you have the King James translation, okay? And then you have what we would have in a King James Bible, and it compares it to Joseph Smith's, okay? And then you can see right here, Smith's translation adds just a ton. The King James doesn't have any of this stuff. You see how it's just blank right there in that column? And that's kind of the theme throughout most of this, is you'll have the King James version, but then you'll have Smith's version, which adds just so much. Like he's adding in so much. And he mentions himself in here multiple times, especially in Isaiah. So the book of Isaiah has a ton of extra chapters where it talks all about Joseph Smith. It talks all about the Book of Mormon, the coming of the Book of Mormon, the prophet of the Latter-day Saints. All of that is in Isaiah in Joseph Smith's translation of the Bible. He's added himself in. So he has Isaiah prophesying about him. Okay? So to give you kind of just a little bit of a taste of that, I'm going to read a little bit out of here, but I also want to read a direct prophecy from 2nd Nephi where it mentions Joseph Smith. And this is in the Book of Mormon, okay? So to kind of, the reason I'm doing this is kind of like whet our appetites a little bit. So this is the first time, because I'm reading through the Book of Mormon, so I actually read this. I just stumbled into it. But this is the first time that Smith is directly mentioned in the Book of Mormon. And he's also directly mentioned in the Bible multiple times too, in his translation of it, okay? But the first one I found, I just want to share with you, and there's many more of these contained in both the Bible, the Smith Bible, and the Book of Mormon, okay? So this is what it says. This is 2nd Nephi chapter 3, starting in verse 6. For Joseph truly testified. Now this is Joseph, the son of Jacob, the son of Isaac, the son of Abraham. This is Joseph with the coat of many colors that was sold into slavery in Egypt. That Joseph, the Genesis Joseph, okay? Not Joseph Smith yet. We're going to get to him. Now Joseph truly testified, saying, a seer shall the Lord my God raise up, who shall be a choice seer unto the fruit of my loins. Yea, Joseph truly said, thus saith the Lord unto me, a choice seer I will raise up out of the fruit of thy loins, and he shall be esteemed highly among the fruit of thy loins, and unto him I will give commandments that he shall do a work for the fruit of thy loins, his brethren, which shall be of great worth unto them, even to the bringing of them to the knowledge of the covenants which I have made with thy fathers. And I will give him a commandment that he shall do no other work save the work that I shall command him, and I will make him great in mine eyes, for he shall do my work. And he shall be great, like unto Moses, whom I have said I would raise up to you to deliver my people, O house of Israel. And Moses will raise up to deliver thy people out of the land of Egypt, but a seer I will raise up from the fruit of thy loins, and I will give him power to bring forth my word unto the seed of thy loins, and not bring forth my word only, saith the Lord, but with the convincing them of my word, which shall have already gone forth among them. Okay? So he's talking about Joseph Smith. Now he's going to directly name him, and that's where this is going to get a little bit more interesting. So he says, okay, so he goes on and on here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he's talking about this seer that's going to rise up in the latter days, but he ends it by saying this, and his name shall be called after me. This is Joseph from Genesis speaking. He says, his name, the seer that God's going to raise up in the latter days, shall be called after me, and shall be after the name of his father. And keep in mind, Joseph Smith's father was named Joseph Smith. And he shall be like unto me, for the thing which the Lord shall bring forth by his hand, by the power of the Lord, shall bring my people unto salvation. Okay? So he's directly mentioning the coming forth of the Book of Mormon. Joseph from Genesis is talking about the coming forth of the Book of Mormon, and he's saying that the prophet, the seer in the latter days who brings this book forth shall be called Joseph. Okay? That's a direct mention of Joseph Smith in here. And actually, Joseph Smith put that, I don't know if he added the headings or if this was added later, but chapter 3, the heading here says, Joseph in Egypt saw the Nephites in a vision. He prophesies of Joseph Smith, the latter-day seer of Moses, who would deliver Israel in the coming forth of the Book of Mormon. Okay, so that's the recap of this chapter. That's what the Book of Mormon says, and that's what you have Joseph saying. So do you see that? I mean, he's just like inserting himself in there and trying to add legitimacy, saying, no, I was spoken of all these in these ancient times by Joseph. He said I was going to come forth. I was going to bring forth the Book of Mormon. You know, here we have it. So Joseph Smith is mentioned extensively in the book of Isaiah in his version of the Bible. But regardless, you know what? I think I'll save that for a different time because I have a lot more for that. But I'll just say that, like Joseph Smith is mentioned, the Book of Mormon is mentioned extensively in his translation of the Bible. So what do you guys think? I mean, is there any chance that this thing is real? guys? I guess that would be my question. Is there any chance that this is the actual translation of the scriptures, and that we did remove the plain and precious portions, and that this is really the restoration? Like, this is really what the scriptures should have always been? You tell me. But I think it's definitely interesting to kind of peek through it, and I just wanted to have that, kind of share it with you guys, get your thoughts on it. Manuel says Smith is full of himself. He is full of himself. It's a bold move to insert oneself into the Bible, isn't it? Like, can you imagine if we did that? Like, if we like, let's say that we sit down, okay, and we come up with Jeremiah Bryan's translation of the Bible. And in that, I add all kinds of scripture that talks about me. And then I'm like, in the latter days of the 21st century, there will rise a seer who will, I don't know, be online on, well, we can't say that directly, right? It's got to sound like King James, will spaketh unto many peoples by a technology, well, I can't say technology, he'll by means yet not discovered. And you should listen to him. And actually, you know what I would do? I would add it to the book of Jeremiah. And then I would have Jeremiah the prophet talking about me. And I'd have him in there being like, and, his name will be the same as mine unto me. The fruit of my loins will be the same as mine. And thus saith the Lord. I would like throw all that into the book of Jeremiah to try to make it sound real. But yeah, can you imagine if we did that? I mean, that's the craziest thing. Like, that's the craziest thing to do it. But guys, I mean, Latter-day Saints is huge. I mean, there are so many people that believe this. Not only do they believe the Book of Mormon, they believe this. They believe that this is the real Bible. Like, this is the real Bible. And, everything Smith added to that is correct, and the Book of Mormon is all true. I mean, they believe everything we read about Moroni popping in and out of Joseph's bedroom, the golden plates that we can't see, the hill Cumorah, all of that. That's 100% believed. 100% believed. I just want to end today with a quick little story here, okay? Because I found this amusing. So when I was reading the Book of Mormon a lot. I have been reading it the last couple of months. Whenever I get a chance, okay. So on my lunch break at work one day, I had read a lot of the Book of Mormon, well, the first two books in the Book of Mormon. I had read a good chunk of them, so I was kind of looking up Joseph Smith and just learning a little bit about him. And I was on YouTube, and I looked up the Latter-day Saints actually have an official channel, so I'm like, if I'm going to get a good picture of how they view Joseph Smith, why not go right to the horse's mouth? So I pull up the Latter-day Saints. They have a video about Joseph Smith's life and everything, and it's got all kinds of reenactments. It's very well made. So I was enjoying it anyway. So I'm watching this video, and it was a nice day out. So I'm sitting in my car out in the parking lot of work, and I got my phone up there. I'm eating my lunch, and I'm watching this video of the Latter-day Saints, and it's talking about how Joseph Smith goes into the woods and he meets God and he meets Jesus, and God tells him to listen to Jesus, and Jesus is like, "Oh, you're the chosen one, Joseph." Anyway, during that part of the video, two men walk up to my car, okay? And they say, "Hey, excuse me, I think this is going to be a little weird. Can we talk to you for a second? My window is down." Ever since then, I've not had my windows down when I've been on my lunch break because of this incident. So anyway, I paused the video and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. What's something wrong?" Like, and they say, "No, we were just wondering if we could pray with you. We're just wondering if you need anything or if we could pray with you or whatever." And I look down. And they have on kind of like right about here where you might wear a name tag, it says their name, but then underneath it says Church of the Latter-day Saints. They're Mormons, and they're traveling around doing like cold call evangelism, essentially. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, that didn't take long. Like, so I was looking at, I kind of glanced back at my phone. I got this Joseph Smith documentary up where he's having these divine like visitations. And then the next thing I know, there's two Mormons appearing out of nowhere, standing next to my car asking if they pray with me. And it was funny because I was like, I told my wife about it. I just said no. I was just like, no, thanks, guys. I appreciate you, though. I said something like that, and they walked away. But I said to my wife later on, I was telling her that story. I'm like, it's a good thing I don't believe in like visions or anything like that. I don't believe in like, any further prophecy or anything like that. Because if I was somebody that like wasn't confident in what I believe and that happened, and I was like somebody that was looking around for like signs or like, what should I do? That kind of, you might look at that and say, oh, well, the Lord sent these Latter-day Saints to me. And now, I could see something like that happening. So I'm like, I just dismissed it. I laughed, actually. I thought it was really funny. I was like, what are the odds of that? But, you look at that and you can say, yeah, but that could have really been, how great it is, at least in my opinion, and for myself personally, to be secure in what I believe, which is just Jesus Christ and Him crucified and raised from the dead. Anything beyond that is really speculative. It really is. I like to get online and debate people with theology. I've been doing that a lot recently, but it's really all just opinions and speculations, unless it's directly stated in Scripture. Interpretations of Scripture are really just opinions. That's what they should be called, is opinions, because that's what they are, unless something's plainly stated. So, and really anything beyond Jesus Christ and Him crucified, believe in Him and you're saved. That's the gospel. Joseph added to it in the Book of Mormon, where he's saying, oh, we got to keep the commandments and the ordinances of the gospel. That's not the gospel. That's the Joseph Smith gospel. Just like we have the Joseph Smith translation of the Bible and the Joseph Smith Book of Mormon. That's his opinions. I think the Book of Mormon, if you want my opinion on it, I think it's a fabrication. I think he completely made it up. But, and I think it was done. The more I looked into Joseph Smith, do you know he was running for president of the United States when he was assassinated? Did you know that? He was trying to weaponize Mormonism to control a population. That's really what it was. And that's my opinion. But when I start reading into the stuff that he did and the way he was received and how he was driven out of communities and all these different things that he did, and then kind of the end where he's grabbing for the ultimate power seat in the United States, where he's actually going to try to become the president. I don't think he would have had a prayer at getting elected. Mormonism was extremely unpopular at the time of his death. Maybe this was just a delusion of his that he could have been elected to that office. Fun fact, Joseph Smith is the first person to be running for a United States president that was assassinated. The first presidential candidate ever in history to be assassinated. I'm not sure if there was a second. You guys would have to help me out on that with history. I'm not sure if there was a second. I know we had the attempted assassination of presidential candidates, but I don't know if there was actually ever a second person who was officially like actually killed when they were running for office. I'm not sure on that. But Joseph Smith was. He was murdered while he was running for president. So he made history a little bit in that sense, being that person. But at any rate, like I said, like this was a weaponization of religion to an extent, to a very strong extent. He's saying, I have secret and hidden knowledge, and you have to have the secret and hidden knowledge for me if you're going to be saved. That's not something I'm a fan of. I think the gospel is an open book. I think that there's no secret and hidden knowledge. There's just Jesus. That's it. Believe in Him and you're saved. No anything beyond that. So that's my opinion. What did so Manuel says, with God, Smith did die instantly. Fruit of the looms. Yeah. I think he says fruit of my loom. I think that's how he says it. It just means descendant, but it's kind of funny because there's what is it? There's like an underwear brand called Fruit of the Loom or something, isn't there? Crap attracts flies. Yeah, it does, unfortunately. I see what you're saying there, Manuel. It does, unfortunately. Yeah, it's a shame. But anyway, maybe we can read some more of the Book of Mormon at a different time. I don't think I'll do that next time we're on here, but I just wanted to share some of that with you guys. So thanks for hanging out for a little bit and reading through some of this and imagining some of this together like we did.